having so much fun. We're going to keep this fun going with our very first big talk of the big idea of the day. And remember, big ideas are short, powerful talks from influential people in our community. And today we're going to hear from Emma Johnson. Longtime award-winning business journalist, Emma Johnson is founder of WealthySingleMommy.com, host of the podcast Like a Mother, and an author of the best-selling The Kick-Ass Single Mom. She's a frequent commentator on Fox and Friends and has been featured in hundreds of outlets, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Oprah.com. She frequently speaks on women and family issues, including the United Nations, and she lives in New York City with her 2 children. Help me welcome Emma Johnson. Hey. So great to see you.
Thank you. I love seeing myself up here. This reminds me of like when my mom would take us to Sears to get our photos taken when we were kids, and there'd be like the shadow in the back. You know, remember those days? So, yeah. Wealthy Single Mommy is my brand, and just briefly, I was a writer my whole career and a journalist and a reporter, and 6 years ago, I went through a divorce, found myself a single mom. I was raised by a single mom, and in a fit of heartbreak and misguided time on GoDaddy, I bought WealthySingleMommy.com, and I set out to share my feelings and my opinions about what it meant to be a single mom in 2012 at that time. And, you know, I wasn't a blogger. I wasn't in the digital marketing space. This was all completely new to me. But some magic happened. And immediately I was mentioned in major media. I remember the New York Times gave me a very nice, juicy link. And the Today Show website and Fox News and Ryan Seacrest was talking about my stuff one day. People I didn't know were calling me and telling me about this. And my traffic grew. And all of a sudden I had a business and a brand and this audience. And fast forward, today it's 6 years, and I have a big business and a big audience, and I'm consulting with other brands. Thank you very much. And thanks in part to this community, by the way, which is incredible and a huge part of what I'm doing today. But people often ask me, you know, how did you get so big so fast? I mean, it's been a long time. It's been 6 years right now. But immediate, I had a really quick upswing right from the very beginning. And how did I get so big so fast? And my answer is, now that I look back and I see what I did right and what I did wrong, is I went super small to get super big. And that is my lesson today. That is what I want to talk about, is how important it is to go very, very niche with your brand in order to grow. So my brand is Wealthy Single Mommy, and I help professional single moms build amazing lives. That is my brand. It's me, Emma Johnson. I help professional single moms. That's the only audience I speak to. Every single piece of content, whether it's social media, blog posts, my podcast, my books, it all only speaks to professional single moms. And I help them build amazing lives. So there are 12 million single family-headed homes in this country. Most of those are women. And statistically, most of them are low income. But if you want to find a service-level job, I am not the person to help you. I'm not going to speak to that. If you want help getting on public assistance, I am not the person to speak to that. I don't care how you got here, but I am going to help you in your single motherhood build an amazing life. That is what I do. So why? Why should you, if you're struggling with your brand, you're having a hard time getting traction, the media is ignoring you, you feel like you're disjointed, you don't know what to write about, you don't know how to write, you don't know how to reach people, you're just not connecting. You're not connecting and getting traction with your brand. Why should you listen to me, Emma Johnson, and go very, very narrow and very, very niche, and niche way, way down in your brand? Well, first of all, this is the people business. We are in a people business. We are communicating and connecting with humans. You as a human, as a writer or a podcaster or a YouTube star, whatever your medium is, maybe multiple mediums, it is you as a human connecting with another human. And it's very, very hard to connect with all humans, right? It's very hard to relate to every single human being in the world, much less a whole gender or maybe just people with kids. If it's very, very broad, it's hard to make that human connection. But if you become very, very narrow, that becomes easier. For me, a little trick that I use is, you hear about creating an avatar. So this is your ideal client, your ideal reader, your ideal audience, who this person is. And as you grow your business and your business changes and your goals change, this person's characteristic can change. But it's identifying who this person is. In my business, I have a friend who's a divorced mom. She lives in Chicago. She's a Montessori teacher, a Spanish grade school Montessori teacher named Valerie. Happens to be a real human being that I know. She's got one kid. She's middle class. She doesn't have a ton of money, but she really is committed to giving herself and her daughter an amazing life. So I always think, like, when I'm putting out a new piece of content, I'm like, well, is Valerie gonna get this, right? Are the Valeries in the universe going to connect with this? And that's the filter that I use, the little tool that I use. Another reason for going very, very niche in your brand is that it helps you get organized, right? Like I said, I've talked to the Valeries. It's a professional woman. She's of an education level that's similar to mine. She has similar goals and visions that Valerie and me, Emma Johnson, that we have. It helps me get really focused because we all know it's so easy. I mean, come on, you're going to leave FinCon, you're going to have 1,000 different ideas that you want to implement, and you're not going to know where to go. And if you're like me, you shut down and you do nothing. But if you're very, very clear about who you are serving, about who you're addressing and connecting with, it helps you be very, very clear about the path forward. Also, next point about why it's so important to go niche is it helps you get traction in the media. Now, everybody, there's lots of value, lots of question about the value of PR and media, whether it's that you think it's going to help you get tons of traffic and sell your products, you want the backlinks, you want the validation on your site to have the logo or the media clip or whatever it is. Media is great, and the bigger the media is, the greater it can be. But as somebody I spent my whole career as a journalist, and I'm here to tell you, and now, I mean, like many of you, now I'm on the other side, and I'm booking people on my podcast, or I'm figuring out which people and experts to feature on my blog and my social media. I've been on both sides of it, including pitching myself. People are not interested if you're generic, right? If the Today Show is looking for an expert on talking to minority women about budgeting, and you're just a generic budget expert, they're not going to call you. How would they even find you, right? Because it's so hard to rank on SEO. If you have a book, it's going to get lost on Amazon. But if you're very, very niche, you are going to rise to the top. You're going to be of mind. You're going to be memorable. And that's my next point. You are memorable. If you are it's just like a human being. Like that is, for many personal brands, that is the brand, that you are yourself. You can't get any more niche than that. You are yourself. Oprah is Oprah. Oprah is Oprah's brand, right? She is herself, and she is memorable, just like we all are memorable individuals. And as a brand, if you have a brand, as I continue to grow, whether it's at FinCon or even in, I live in New York City, so going to networking events there, people say, oh gosh, I heard about you. You speak to single moms. You speak to professional single moms, and they know me because no one else is doing this in this space. I went really, really niche. I cornered it, and frankly, I don't have a lot of competition. And when it comes to memorability, I have to say that has been a bonanza for me in my business. Because again, going back to that human connection, so many women, I've done hundreds of thousands of dollars in business in the last couple of years because women find themselves becoming single moms, or they are single moms and they're looking for resources. Maybe they're going through a divorce, they're having a child outside of a partnership, they're a single mom, whatever their path is, they're looking for resources. They're scared. I know they're scared because I know this audience, because I can connect with them because they're very narrow. These women, these professional, influential women, they find me. I answer their questions. I make them feel cared for. I give them the resources that they need. They love me. We form professional and personal relationships, and they go and fight for me in their organizations, and I do big business that way. So that personal connection is not just with your audience. It's like here, we're all friends. This is such a beautiful community because they're friendships. We become friends with the brands, with each other, with the leaders in this organization, and that is really such a critical and old-fashioned way of doing business and making money. So how do you do it? How do you niche down, right? Like maybe you've been blogging for a while and people are reading and you're getting some traction, but you don't know where to go. Well, one thing that I've learned, and this is like a really great business lesson, but I've learned it as it helps me in my personal life and in my parenting, but learning to listen. I have learned to listen so much better over the last 6 years. And when it comes to my business, listening can mean many different things. It can mean surveying your audience. You know, you can do a nice little survey inside your Facebook group. Facebook's got a great little widget there. That's a cool way to do it. Me, as I'm growing my email list, people get a very simple little email when they sign in for whatever freebie I'm giving away. They sign in and they get a little welcome email. Very simple. Don't mess around with the graphics. Keep it very personal. Connection. Looks like it's just a regular old email. And it says, thank you so much for joining my community. Please join my Facebook group over here and answer 2 questions for me. What is your proudest moment as a single mom? And what is your biggest challenge as a single mom? And you cannot believe the responses I get to these. I have women telling me that they are crying when they're typing it because they've never thought about those questions. They've never celebrated themselves as single moms. No one's asked them what their challenges are. No one's listened to them. They're touched that I'm even listening, and they give me so much information about how I can serve them. You can listen by your metrics, right? Like if you're figuring out, like you get on all this random traffic, you don't know which way to go, what to write about next, go into Google Analytics. Google Analytics will tell you who your audience is now, and then you can make informed decisions. Maybe you hone it down. Maybe you want to go geographically specific or go into a certain age group or ethnic group or whatever it is, or not. It just helps you make informed decisions. And if you're intimidated by Google Analytics, there's about 1,500 people in this room, and somebody can help you find somebody really nice and good. Another way that you can listen is simply by, I have a very active Facebook group. Whatever your most active social media is, and maybe it's the comments on your blog or on your YouTube channel, or even just looking at the numbers, what kind of posts are people and comments are people making on your Instagram, if your Instagram is your big strength. Just all of these are messages that your audience is telling you about and telling you about who they are, what their pain points are, and how you can serve them. So, and the other way, so you're listening to your audience, they're telling you who they are, and you might be happy with that, or maybe you want to hone it and guide it into something else. And that brings me to the other part of figuring out what your micro brand is listening to yourself. Mine was very easy for me. My brand was born out of my own selfish needs. I was becoming a single mom. I felt lost and needing a community to talk about things that were very specific to me. I watched my mom grow up as a single mom, and she was low income, and she had one set of challenges in her life. I was in a different demographic, in a different time. I was living in a big city, and I wanted to speak to my peers. I wanted to connect with these people. So this had to be something I was passionate about, because I'll tell you, and those old folks here that have been in this industry for a long time, 6 years is a long time to be writing about one subject for a long time. And you really have to have something that you're going to be passionate about and be willing to nurture, and that you can foresee really developing over the very long term. So maybe this is really guided by your own vision and what you feel that you can give a community, right? Maybe who you are and what you can offer is not aligned with what Google Analytics is telling you, and that's okay, because the beauty of digital media is that you can harness all of this and gradually guide people and find the people in your target audience that you really can serve and connect with emotionally. So I'm going to give you, everybody, a very quick little homework, assignment, or something to think about. You don't have to do it, but something to think about as I'm leaving. And that is just to look at your audience and think about 3 layers deeper that you can go in niching down. Right? Who is your audience today? I want you to think about that, if you can articulate that. And maybe you can't. Maybe you're floundering and you really don't know yet, and that's okay. But if you can take it down one level deeper, right? Maybe you narrow it down by income bracket, topic that you're talking about, right? So it's not just personal finance for families. Maybe it's just budgeting for dads. And then I want you to go one more level deeper than that even. Is it all dads, right? Is it just budgeting for dads? Or maybe it's budgeting for dads with credit problems. Because think about how specific that is. When you're talking to men who are fathers with this thing they might be ashamed of, they can't talk to people about it, It plays into their masculinity, their roles in their families, their roles in their community. Oh my goodness, these are such deep, deep emotional, visceral things. And if you're the right person to connect with them, that is incredible. And I'm pretty sure that I've never heard of a platform that is that specific and niche. Okay, so that's your takeaway, that's your go-to. And the big fear, I know what so many of you are thinking, because I've struggled with this myself, is that if you go so niche, you abandon so many people, right? That you are like, you want to own the world like we all do. I want to go so big. My book was just bought by a publisher in Vietnam. I'm like, oh my God, that's just the beginning. I'm going to be a global publisher. I'm going to go so big. And you're worried that if you go so niche, that you're going to abandon all these people and limit yourself and limit your message and your expertise and your joy. But I'll tell you, you're never going to get any traction unless you go niche. And I'll tell you for myself, I only speak to professional single moms. But my audience is massive because guess what? Low-income single moms follow me and engage with me because it's aspirational. And you know who else reads me and follows me, engages with me? Miserably married moms. Right? I like to say there's a single mom inside of every mom. Right? Women who are maybe not in a partnership want to have a baby and they're terrified because the message is out there is that this is a miserable experience to be a single mom, and they're like, Emma, what's it really like? They're checking. Dudes want to know what we're saying, right? About a quarter of my audience is actually men. And that's fine. They can read. They can't come into the Facebook group, but they're there. They're driving my traffic. They're driving my SEO. They're clicking on my affiliate links. They're part of the business. But I don't write to them. They don't get a shout out. I'm only writing to professional single moms because they come there, they know what they're getting, and the content and the connection is very high. Thank you very much, everybody.